everyone, and welcome to First Take. Kerry Champion and Skip Bayless are in studio. As usual, our buddy, he's in New York City. Hey, Stephen A. Smith with no tie on.
What's going on? How you doing?
Why are you so casual? Where's your tie?
I couldn't rock the... Well, you know what? I'm ashamed to admit it. Put me out on Front Street. I deserve it. I actually forgot the tie that matches with this jacket, so I couldn't come on the air with a busted tie. That would make me look like Skip Bayless, so I couldn't do that.
I was going to say.
So I decided, I just decided to rock this look.
I think it's an incredibly cool look, and I might have to try it sometime.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I'll be back in studio tomorrow and Friday, though.
Yeah,
I miss y'all, so I'll be there. I'll be in the house.
I'll believe it when I see it.
He doesn't believe you, Stephen A. He'll be back in studio
Such
with
a
the tie
brat.
on.
Such a
He
spoiled
is,
brat.
isn't he? Come on, he'll be here. On the show today, it was mentioned on First Take, and perhaps Jerry Jones listened to you. Michael Sam headed to Dallas for a physical. Can he help that defense? We'll talk about it. Plus, Cardinals Calais Campbell and Chargers Dwight Freeney will also join the show. Now, if you want to know what's coming on the show today, you can actually head over to our Instagram page for a complete rundown of everything that will be there. But first, Wes Welker in the news again, this time, though, not for concussion. The Broncos wideout is suspended 4 games for using performance-enhancing drugs. According to our Adam Schefter, Welker tested positive for amphetamines. The drug can be used to increase stamina and alertness, while Pro Football Talk says Welker popped the recreational drug Molly while he was at the Kentucky Derby. Here's from Welker. He says, I'm as shocked as everyone at today's news. This is an email to the Denver Post. I want to make one thing abundantly clear. I would never knowingly take a substance to gain a competitive advantage in any way. Anyone who has ever played it down with me, lifted a weight with me, even eaten a meal with me, knows that I focus purely on what I put in my body and on the hard work I put in year-round to perform at the highest levels, year in and year out. I now know that the NFL's drug policy procedures are clearly flawed, and I will do everything in my power to ensure they are corrected so other individuals and teams aren't negatively affected so rashly like this. Welker went on to say that there are no shortcuts in life. So that denial, extremely strong, Stephen A. What's your reaction to it?
Well, my reaction to it is that Wes Welker needs to stop lying to the American public by saying that he's going to do everything in his power to rectify this situation. He's not going to do a damn thing but serve his 4-game suspension. Let's not act like you were shocked. If you were so shocked, you're shocked because this came down the pike suddenly and you didn't see it coming. You left practice. You ultimately tried to talk to these folks to make your case for yourself. So you basically knew that it was coming down the pike. So don't sit there and act all incredulous and shocked when you pretty much had reason to suspect that this 4-game suspension was going to come down. That just comes across as a bit phony. Now, that in no way, I don't want anybody to mistake me saying that he's lying about the other stuff, meaning that he's lying about, trying to take a performance-enhancing drug. That's not what he was doing, that he knowingly and intentionally did something. I'm going to take him at his word. It could have very easily been a mistake. You're hearing various reports, whatever they may be, and I'm not going to elaborate on all of that because he obviously is denying it, and we don't have enough information to really get into it on that level. But in the end, it was the off season. You were at the Kentucky Derby. You took something while you were there. You ultimately got tested, and we learned it was in violation of the league policy. I don't know what to make of this stuff, to be quite honest with you, Skip. I'm not going to pretend to do so. I barely understand the difference between performance-enhancing drug use as it pertains to steroids and amphetamines. What exactly is the difference that needs to be illuminated here? I'm not an expert in that matter. I simply do not know. I will take him at his word that he did not know. I just don't believe him when he says he was shocked, and I don't believe that he's going to go on some kind of crusade against the NFL and their drug testing policy. He's going to stay his behind home and serve his 4-game suspension. That's what he's going to do. Save the histrionics for somebody else. The first 4 games of the season for the Denver Broncos, Peyton Manning, Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas, Monty Ball, Coach John Fox, Executive John Elway are not going to have Wes Welker at their disposal. Plain and simple. That's all that matters.
Question. How shocked were you when you heard this news yesterday afternoon? Wes Welker, gone 4 games, amphetamines. How shocked?
I'd say about a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. Not too surprised, Skip, because the sport of football is so violent that, anything that gives you a kind of edge from a physical perspective or will alleviate some of the the ails and the pains and all of that stuff that comes with the job, doesn't surprise me when an NFL player is involved with this.
Okay, but we're talking about, on the surface, amphetamines, which get you up, right? These are uppers that have been around forever in the sport of baseball because they play 162 games. You need to get up, up, up.
Yeah.
It's like more caffeine. It's like caffeine, so to speak, on steroids.
Right.
Okay, so
Yes.
I don't know what the truth is here. I preface what I'm going to say with that. But, Mr. Smith, hasn't history taught us through the steroid era in baseball and track and field that the more loudly an athlete protests, the guiltier he or she turns out to be? Isn't that where we are?
See David Braun.
That has
Ryan
been true.
Braun.
There you go.
That has been true.
Ryan
yes.
Braun. We can go on and on. Back to Marion Jones. We can go on and on. Everybody, no way.
Yeah.
Rafael Palmeiro, no way. Yeah, there's a way. So, when I first heard this, I was a little surprised it was Wes Welker. And I was a little surprised at the timing when I heard Adam Schefter's report that this happened just after he returned from the Kentucky Derby. So, again, Mr. Smith, you've been covering sports for a long time. Have you ever heard of an athlete, no matter how driven that athlete might be, taking some sort of upper, amphetamines, just to get ready for an off-season workout? That's where we are, on the surface of this. Neither have I. Again, is it possible, and again, this is just total surmising on my part, speculation, but is it possible that Wes Welker has taken amphetamines during seasons to the point that he's a little addicted to them and he needed them to get up for a workout when he got back from the Derby and said, man, I put on 5 pounds at the Derby. I need to hit the gym hard today and I need something to get me up. Well, clearly he would have been a candidate for testing positive many times before and didn't. So go ahead.
I would answer that question by saying to you that during the off seasons, whereas I don't know an athlete to do such a thing because of a workout, I do know athletes who use such things for other recreational activities in terms of getting themselves up.
Okay, that's where we're getting to here. So, Wes Welker tells the Denver Post, when we get back to the Pro Football Talk report, Molly, or it's MDMA, obviously laced with, cut with amphetamines to give it a little more pop. And Wes Welker says, I wouldn't have any idea where to get a Molly or what a Molly is, as if he doesn't even know what Molly is without the A in front of it. That's a joke. I don't do marijuana. I don't do drugs. I don't do any drugs. So, to quote my friend William Shakespeare, doth he protest too much? This is, as Kerry pointed out, this is vehement denials. So, Stephen A., are you buying any of that he doesn't know what a Molly is?
Hard time believing that.
No, I'm really not. I mean, listen, man. Molly, to my understanding, is a recreational drug, and obviously people use that for other recreational activities.
Okay.
And I'm telling you that when it comes to that, I put nothing past a particular, any man or particularly any athlete, because you're used to being elite at a professional level in terms of sports, but you kind of want to carry that over to being elite in other areas.
That's fine. Okay.
And that's what it is.
All right, fine.
What it is.
But Wes Welker also wonders aloud to the Denver Post, did somebody spike his drink with Molly at the Kentucky Derby?
Could that have happened?
Could it have happened? Sure, it could have happened. Yeah. Am I going to buy that the dog did eat his homework? I'm not going to buy that one. But I could be wrong.
That's the equivalent,
yes, it's a dog ate my homework kind of excuse, as is the final excuse, the procedure is tainted.
Yeah,
it's flawed.
I
got a bad sample. Who knows what my A sample wasn't my B. We keep hearing this time after time. Am I going to buy that? I guess it's possible, but too many times in the past we've heard it as is dog ate my homework kind of excuse.
Skip, Skip, just a question here for you. The Kentucky Derby is in May, if I remember correctly.
Yep. First Saturday.
Training camp begins in July, preseason's in August, the season begins in September. If indeed he was just using a recreational drug while partying and chilling at the Kentucky Derby, which I hear is a wonderful, wonderful experience. I know plenty of dudes who love going to the Kentucky Derby because they say, for lack of a better phraseology, the scenery is exceptional.
I've been to many, I was working. Go ahead.
And you didn't like the
That's
scenery.
right.
I didn't even notice the scenery. I saw a lot of hats. That's all I saw.
I've been to the Preakness. The Belmont Stakes. Never been to the Kentucky Derby. But I'm telling you what I heard. And I guess what I'm saying is that if you were partying and chilling, and let's say, for example, you did take a Molly in May, I do believe that the NFL should kind of think about that. I don't know how much of an indictable offense it should be if you were at the Kentucky Derby and you were partying and you engaged in using a recreational drug, clearly for something other than football purposes, okay? And that's something that should be held against you in September for the regular season.
But
I don't know about that. It's just a question.
It's an illegal drug, as is still marijuana in most states.
All right.
So it's illegal.
Okay.
All right. So go ahead. Do you want to?
Yeah, I wanted to ask him a question, and I don't know if this is where you were going. So Wes Welker, Stephen A, misses the first 4 games, right? So let's go down the schedule. Colts, Chiefs, Seahawks. They have a bye in week 4. He misses the game against the Cardinals. How does that impact the Broncos?
I think they lose 2 of those games. I think it's entirely possible that they lose 2 of those games. I mean, their first 8 games on the schedule, 6 are playoff teams. 6 are playoff teams, and the other 2 are against Arizona, which won 10 games, and against the New York Jets. I mean, I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I think if I remember correctly, yeah, that's what it is. And so for me, they're going to have a tough spot. They're going to be in a tough spot the first half of the season, particularly those first 4 games. I can see them losing 2 of them.
I cannot. They were going to lose at Seattle with or without Wes Welker. That's just me. The point is, let's start with this. This is your basic blessing in disguise for the Denver Broncos, because Wes Welker was iffy at best already, even though it looked like he might be able to play this weekend. They were going to give it a shot. But as we all know, 3 concussions in 10 months. So why wouldn't John Fox and John Elway sit back and say, well, thank you, God, for this, because we actually need to put him on the shelf and hope he recovers a little more, though it's pretty hard to recover from the buildup of concussions that Wes Welker has gone through as he goes into, what's this, his 10th year? Yeah, 10th year in the league. So, but again, would 4 weeks help him? Yes. Will it dramatically hurt the Denver Broncos passing attack? Hey, so you've added Emmanuel Sanders to the 2 Thomases, Demaryius and Julius. And I looked it up, Stephen A. Emmanuel Sanders last year caught 12 balls out of the slot for the Pittsburgh Steelers, had 104 snaps in the slot for the Steelers. So if you have to use Emmanuel inside for a game, 2, 3, 4 games, I don't know if that's the end of the world. Todd McShay kept telling us here on the show that his favorite unsung player in the draft was Cody Lattimore, who the Broncos got with their second-round pick, so I assume you could use him some. And remember, the old faithful Jacob Tamme is still there, who can play in the slot. He's the upside-down player to Wes Welker at 6'3", 2 whatever he is, 220, 230. So he's just your big physical kind of slot receiver. But I think you can get through without Wes Welker and win 3 of those 4 games.
I'm not saying that you can't over the long haul, but the difference between you and I over those first 4 games, Skip, is that you're thinking about talent. I'm thinking about chemistry. Eric Decker's gone. No Sean Moreno's gone. Now Wes Welker is going to be out. And Peyton Manning is very, very big on chemistry. That's why he practices religiously. That's why he doesn't take days off. That's why he's committed as he is committed. And that's why he is as effective as as he is, because timing is everything. Doesn't have the strongest arm, doesn't have as much velocity on his throws as the Tom Brady's and Aaron Rodgers of the world, people like that. Chemistry is an incredibly big thing. And over the course of the season, as it progresses, I have no doubt that you're absolutely right that the Denver Broncos will definitely be relevant and in the picture. We get that. They're going to win 11, 12 games this year. I'm just saying that over those first 4 games where the regular season begins and the ante is upped from preseason and there's a chemistry and a cohesion and familiarity that has to kick in, those things take some time. And I think the absence of 3 of his familiar targets is going to take something away from the juggernaut of an offense that we saw in the Denver Broncos last year. Number 1 in scoring, number 1 in points, number 1 pass and attack, over 370 yards a game. But those 3 pieces being gone, I think, could end up affecting you simply based on timing and chemistry.
All right, our Broncos beat reporter Jeff Legwold is saying that Peyton and the crew had already been preparing for this, taking extra reps with Emmanuel Sanders. Let's move on.
Which means Wes Welker wasn't surprised.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, Michael Sam went unclaimed after he cleared waivers. This, though, was the discussion on First Take about where he should end up or could end up. Let's listen.
What is the worst defense in the National Football League right now, we think? I think it's my Dallas Cowboys defense.
The Cowboys.
What was my first thought when I heard that Michael Sam was released? Come on, Dallas, pick him up. They just, for whatever reason, they're not interested. And I am surprised.
All right. Well, perhaps Jerry watched the show that day. Michael Sam on visiting the Dallas Cowboys. It's been a roller coaster this past week, but I'm happy where I'm at now. I'm just looking forward to being a Cowboy. My focus is on making the team. It has all happened so quickly, but it's exciting. I just want to get back to playing football, you know. I never followed the Cowboys growing up because I never had a team. I am a fan of defenses, and Dallas needs some help. That's why I'm going. Okay. Michael Sam and the Dallas Cowboys, a good fit, Skip Bayless.
Once again, Stephen A., an obvious fit to me. As we all painfully are aware of, the Dallas Cowboy defense easily could be the worst in the National Football League. And as we all know and saw with our own 2 eyes, Michael Sam proved in the Southeastern Conference with his high motor, he can rush the passer. So the Dallas Cowboys, to me, are the one NFL team that is numb to, if not immune to, distraction. We keep hearing that negative word, distraction, associated with Michael Sam. The Cowboys have an owner who is a walking, talking distraction, who loves sideshows. So why not welcome one more sideshow, quote unquote, if it's Michael Sam? Because going into that Cowboy locker room is like going into a theater, a multiplex of first-run movies. You can go see the Romo movie. You can go see the Dez movie. Now, if you choose, you can go see the Michael Sam movie if you are so inclined. So it will not distract this football team, this probable 6-10 football team, to add Michael Sam even to the practice squad as you approach week 1 in your first real game. The Dallas Cowboys are obviously the only team in the National Football League that gets to keep all of its proceeds from jersey sales. So if Michael Sam's jersey is going to continue to be a top seller, why not, Jerry Jones, make a few more bucks off Michael Sam jerseys? And it is possible, Stephen A., that maybe yesterday the PR wizard that Jerry Jones can be thought it might be nice to announce the signing of Michael Sam to take just a little bit of focus off the Josh Brent news that he might return to the Dallas Cowboys Week 11. Might be. I'm just throwing that out there. So, bottom line, if Michael Sam is going to get a real opportunity to eventually play, maybe even contribute to the Cowboys, and Jerry's going to get a little more national attention and make a few more bucks, so be it. Everybody will be happy. I'm happy. Perfect fit.
Well, first of all, I agree with you. And more importantly, I think this is one of those situations where Jerry Jones deserves a lot of credit. And he deserves a lot of credit, Skip Bayless, for being a team player. Because according to sources that I have in the NFL, the league did call a few teams. They did want teams to take Michael Sam because obviously we see what kind of movement they're gearing for and what they're supportive of. Michael Sam, we all know, came out, acknowledged that he was gay before the draft, and ultimately this is something that Roger Goodell and the NFL supports, and they want their teams to support. But other teams weren't too receptive to taking him on once the St. Louis Rams cut him. So in steps Jerry Jones, coming to the aid of the NFL and making a splash with his willingness to bring this guy on board to the practice squad. Kudos to Jerry Jones, because it just shows that he's willing to be a team player. It shows that even though he's a hype machine or what have you, in the end, he's willing to do what he believes and what the league believes is in the best interest of the league. And so for once, all joking aside, I think Jerry Jones deserves a lot of credit for that. But I also think that it's important from a football standpoint for us to understand that Michael Sam deserved the right to be on a practice squad. 11 tackles, 3 sacks, six tackles in one game. He showed up during the preseason to be on somebody's practice squad, and it's a shame that wasn't going to happen. And you know my belief, Skip, his willingness to come out and reveal his sexual orientation, I don't care what anybody says, played a role in teams' reticence towards bringing him on board once the St. Louis Cardinals cut him. But in the case of the Dallas Cowboys, a 4-3, his ability to rush the passer is evident. I think that, Dallas is one of the few teams in the league, one of about 10 or 12 teams that plays the 4-3. As far as I'm concerned, it seems to be a good fit. But keep in mind, it is the practice squad. It's not the 53-man roster or anything like that. And if you talk to people that studied Michael Sam last year, even though he was impressive as being co-defensive player of the year in the SEC, they talked about how on many, many occasions he wasn't even blocked. He had free reign a lot of different times, and that, you know what, he may not be the player that's worthy of being on an NFL roster. So we'll see. Okay, now wait a second. That's news to me. So your sources are telling you the league office, starting with the commissioner, encouraged some teams to go ahead and more strongly consider taking Michael Sam, even if they didn't think his performance merited being on an NFL roster? No, I'm not trying to imply that. What I'm trying to say is that because of the NFL's position in terms of being supportive of an openly gay athlete playing in their league, they made it known to several people throughout the league that, you know what, this is something that we support and we wouldn't mind at all if you took a look at this guy. So in other words, they're not forcing anybody to do anything. I don't mean to imply something as egregious as that, but we all know that what the NFL position is with Michael Sam, and they have unapologetically made that very, very clear to teams in the NFL under their umbrella. That's all I was told, nothing more specific than that. Okay. Do you think that Michael Sam, on ability alone, deserved the spot on Dallas's practice squad? On a practice squad, Michael Sam deserves to be on any team in the NFL as far as I'm concerned. On that 53-man roster, that's another story. Okay. I disagree with that take. Again, I'm going on eye test in the Southeastern Conference, co-defensive player of the year. I'm adamant about this. If you give him a chance to play in a real game, and again, there was a report on NFL Network, he wasn't much of a practice player for the Rams, which may have done him in as far as their practice squad went. But I just have a gut feeling if you put this young man in a real game, lights on, cameras rolling, I think he'll play. I think he'll make plays because he did for Missouri. Well, I have to attack your position from this premise, Skip. On many, many occasions, whether it be with Tebow, Michael Sam, or anybody else, you talk about giving folks a chance to play. And I understand that you were right to some degree about Tebow, even though I'll still tell you he can't throw. He did win football games, and Michael Sam may very well play well on an NFL roster. But I would ask you to keep in mind that there are a whole, particularly when it pertains to the college game, Skip Bayless, there's a whole bunch of people we never see. We never see them. They're not playing in the marquee SEC conference, the Big 12, the Pac-12, or anything like that. They're not playing on national TV. We don't get an opportunity to see these guys. And when you get drafted by an NFL team or you're allowed to come into an NFL camp, you have an obligation to show up during practice, during training camp, and show what you've got. You have an obligation to not be allowed to rest on your laurels from what you did in the collegiate game when the bright lights turn on. If somebody is outplaying you, they're outplaying you. Ethan Westbrooks, I didn't hear of this guy. I didn't know of this guy. But what I do know is that every NFL aficionado has said that he outplayed Michael Sam. That's not to say that Michael Sam can't play on the NFL level, can't be on a 53-man roster, but you do have an obligation to show up and outperform people enough to make the 53-man roster so you can be on the field on a Sunday afternoon. And if you don't show up and produce in practice, then the price you pay is not making the team. I don't go for this, oh, well, you know what? If you turn the lights on, I have a gut feeling. Hell with the gut feeling. He's got to show up and produce when he's called upon so he can earn the right to produce when the lights come on.
Okay, I hear you. But there are players, and you know this, who come along who are not psychologically built to turn it all the way on in practice. It's not that they're not trying hard or they're lazy or whatever the other word is for it. It's just the way they're put together psychologically. There's something about the pressure of this counts, this is real, and they raise their games to levels unforeseen. And again, your Ethan Westbrook's example, West Texas A&M, undrafted free agent, is not a fair one to Michael Sam because St. Louis is indicating he could be a star, like the diamond in the undrafted free agent rough. The diamond. That's how good that Jeff Fisher is indicating this kid is so far. So let's wait and see. But if they're right about that, he could be another star in a star-studded defensive front. I mean, come on now. I never said Michael Sam was going to be a star.
No, but I'm not accusing you of that. I didn't say anything about that. I am attacking your premise about how the gut feeling turn the lights on to the point where you're poo-pooing the obligation for people to produce in practice and training camp. There's 53 guys. You got to be good enough to make one to be better than 53 other guys, Skip. You just have to be good enough in practice to be better than 53 other guys.
If Michael Sam get signed by Dallas, they would have to release one of the members of the practice squad because they already are full. They have their 10 max players. Our next guest is entering his 7th season in the NFL with the Cardinals and was named captain of the team for the first time this year. The Cardinals were 6th in the NFL last season in total defense, up 6 spots from the previous year. The Cardinals became the 8th team over the last 20 seasons to have double-digit wins, but failed to make the playoffs. Perhaps this year will be their year. We welcome in Cardinals defensive end Calais Campbell to the show. Calais, you guys played the Broncos in Week 5. They will be without Wes Welker, who was suspended for taking PEDs. Welker has said, he's on the record, that he believes that the NFL drug policy is flawed. We wanted to get your take on that this morning.
You know, I do think it is a little bit unique how if you start playing well, you get drug tests a little more often, but it's supposed to be random. You know, I know Drew Brees said he could play till he was 45, and next thing I got 4 drug tests in a row. I'm just saying that's a little bit unique when it's supposed to be random. And the offseason program, I mean, the way they do it in the offseason could be a lot better as well. But, you know, I mean, you know the rules, you just got to follow them.
So, Calais, as you no doubt have heard, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts was just suspended for 6 games and fined the maximum $500,000 after he pleaded guilty to 1 misdemeanor count of driving a vehicle while intoxicated, and that was his first offense. We are hearing a number of players in the NFL are outraged that the punishment wasn't enough. What's your view?
You know, players get punished so much for things that some people might view as a lot less than what he did. And so in that case, you know, I mean, the owner's got to be held to the same standard the players are. And you want, you know, as a player, you want to see the owners get treated, you know, I mean, even more seriously because, I mean, they are the ones that control the NFL. So it kind of, I mean, it's one of those things, though. I mean, the penalties are never enough, you know, they're too much all the time. I mean, it depends who you ask and who they like, and, you know, it's based off opinion. But for me, you know, I think as long as you got some kind of, you know, penalty, I'm happy.
Okay, back to the football field. Even without Darnell Dockett, Darrell Washington, I think you're going to have a playoff caliber defense. So how fair is it for me to say that the Arizona Cardinals will go only as far as an inconsistent Carson Palmer will be able to take them?
Very true. I mean, in this league is a quarterback-driven league, and Carson is a great quarterback in my opinion. You know, I know he has had some inconsistency over the years, but I think right now in this system with BA, I think he's due up for a big year.
You know, I'm looking at Valdez. You got him from Oakland. He's your left tackle. He's going to be protecting Carson Palmer. I think will be a huge help. But listening to you guys talk, listening to you talk, you almost sound as if the defense has let it be known to the offense. We got our stuff handled. Don't worry about us. This is on y'all. What kind of things do you feel and what kind of things are you saying about Arizona's offense? Because it seems to be, like Skip just said, Carson Palmer, the Arizona Cardinals are going to go where Bruce Arians and Carson Palmer take y'all.
100%. I mean, in this league, I mean, you have to have a good quarterback, but don't get me wrong, defense wins games. You know, we put ourselves in position to win every game, and if we give Carson an opportunity and just keep getting them short fields, I know he'll take advantage of it.
So
how much of a loss
Go ahead.
How much of a loss is Dockett and Washington going to be to this defense in your estimation?
You know, those are two key players that we had on the team last year. Guys that you know what you're getting every week, every Sunday. You know, but the addition of Tommy Kelly, I think, will help us a lot. You know, I think we have some young guys coming in, stepping up. I like Larry Foote. I mean, he's won 2 Super Bowls before. He has the experience. So our defense, we have the pieces to the puzzle. And I think, we just have to have different playmakers. I mean, having the Honey Badger back, I think will be huge for us. He's a playmaker already. You see it in practice. He hasn't missed a step.
So, Calais, we're offering you the opportunity to step out on the limb and tell us that you are going to win your division this year.
You know, I really believe it in my heart. You know, I think we've done everything so far that we needed to put ourselves in position. You know, it's just a matter of executing, going on the field every week, winning one game at a time. Now, you can't rush, but the possibility is there. I really feel like if we do what we're supposed to on defense, I think Carson will step up and do what he's supposed to. I mean, I really like Ellington. He's going to step up and have a good year. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be. You know, I think we can win our division 100%.
I'm looking at you guys, and I expect y'all to make some noise. Cromartie being back there with Peterson definitely helps the secondary. We know that. I know you're concerned about Seattle because they're the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, and they're within your division. Is there somebody else in the NFC that you find yourself very, very concerned about, that you think everybody else needs to be looking at right now?
You know, in the NFL, every game is easy. I mean, every game is a hard game. There's no easy game in the NFL. So to me, I mean, whether we're playing Seattle, San Francisco, or pretty much even it don't matter who we're playing. I mean, there's no bad team in the NFL. I mean, I know some teams are not as good as others, but on Sunday, every team has talent. Every team can beat you, so you have to come with your A game week in and week out.
All right, Calais Campbell, you're done. How was that? You survived First Take. Are you okay with that?
I am okay with that. Thank you.
Our next guest is 22nd in NFL history in career sacks with 108. He's 6th among active players behind John Abrams, Jared Allen, Julius Peppers, DeMarcus Ware, and Robert Mathis. He is one of 9 NFL players in NFL history with 100-plus sacks and 40-plus forced fumbles. Joining Hall of Famers Bruce Smith, Chris Dolman, and Derek Thomas. He played a career low of 4 games this last season due to injury, but he's looking for a better season with the well-set Chargers. We welcome in Dwight Freeney to the desk. Dwight, we appreciate you being here today. Before you were with the Chargers, you were drafted by the Colts and spent 11 seasons there. And obviously, you know owner Jim Irsay very well. He's suspended for 6 games and fined $500,000 after pleading guilty to misdemeanor DUI. And we're hearing that some players were outraged with what they believe is a slap on the wrist. Your take on that?
Well, you know what? Honestly, I think the owners get judged a little bit different than the players, and I think we all know that. And I'm not exactly sure, is that punishment appropriate? I don't know. I don't know all the details, and I don't know all the, suspensions like that there have been. So for me, I'm pretty much, as long as they did something and they didn't just, turn their back and just forget about it, it is what it is.
So, Dwight, let's talk this year's San Diego Chargers. I read a quote from you just a few days back where you said one of the most talented teams you've ever been a part of, that this is definitely a Super Bowl team because you have the right mentality, that this team believes it's time. So let's just lay it on the line. Let's go one step farther. How much do you really believe that you will dethrone Denver and get to the Super Bowl?
I mean, I have full belief in that. I think we have all the pieces that we need. I'm talking about defensively, the depth that we have. We're deeper than we ever been. We have a lot of key players on the offensive end. Second year being with Mike McCoy in their offense, I think this offense is going to be rolling. We've beaten Denver before, and I think we're definitely possible of beating them twice.
Stephen A.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought Skip was going to ask another question. I'm sorry, Dwight. I'm going to stay with the Chargers for a quick second because I want to know about you real quick. I got two questions, but my first question to you would be this. As it pertains to you, you signed a 2-year deal. You're entering the final year of your deal, if I remember correctly. I'm wondering what the future's looking like for you. How many years do you think you have left in you? What are you looking to do, especially after playing just 4 games last year with so many people expecting a lot from you?
I mean, Steve, I think the big thing for me is just kind of taking it year by year, and evaluating it at the end of the year and see where I am. I've had a lot of accomplishments and all of that, Super Bowl and all that, but you know what? I think if you take it year to year, you'll figure out what you want to do, how that year went, and what you want to see in the future. And that's kind of my approach.
So basically you're entertaining the possibility that if you play this season and it doesn't go as planned, that you can entertain retirement. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, possibly. You never know what's going to happen here. I mean, I know right now, I definitely want to play. I have fun playing. I still enjoy everything about the game. And that's where I am, and that's where my mentality is right now. But who knows what's going to happen in the future? I mean, that's why I say you got to take it one year by year.
Let me transition to a question about the Colts because obviously they play this week. They're going to be going up against Peyton Manning and Denver Broncos. Peyton Manning is in your division, but you are very familiar with the Colts organization. I want to know what you think about Andrew Luck and what you see transpiring in Indianapolis under his leadership over the last 2 years, because somebody that will remain nameless is relatively critical of Andrew Luck. I believe he's an absolute stud. Want to know what your thoughts are about him.
I mean, I absolutely think he's a star in this league. For the things that he's done to this point, and leading that team. When I was on, he led our offense, to a lot of victories. And that's composure, and that's really a testament to him off the field and what he does, from a training perspective, but also how he handles himself in the meeting rooms and the locker room, man. This guy definitely has the talent to be a great one. Now, will he be? I don't know. He has big shoes to fill over there in Indianapolis, but I think he's definitely in the right focus and the right pace. So, Dwight, how surprised were you by your old friend Robert Mathis getting suspended for 4 games? I was very surprised. I know Robert very, very well, and we actually had a conversation about it, and I know what his intentions were, and it definitely wasn't to have any type of advantage out there on the field. And then honestly, it was for what the reasons why he said it was. If you know Robert, that is the case. So I was really hurt by the fact that he got suspended. I mean, he knows that he didn't do right as far as checking and making sure that, he checked all the avenues and everything he was supposed to do. But if a doctor tells you it's okay, I guess he felt like it was okay.
All right, Dwight Freeney, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck this season. Stay healthy, my friend.
All right, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Colts owner Jim Irsay suspended 6 games and fined $500,000 after pleading guilty to misdemeanor DUI. Irsay violating the league's personal conduct policy. Goodell, in a letter to the owner, said that owners, management, and coaches must be held to a higher standard than players. Well, does the punishment fit the crime?
Many players in this league are outraged that it wasn't a heavier suspension. Now, the league basically is saying, hey, listen, for a first-time offender, we don't suspend a player. We basically fine him, so this is greater. Owners are being held to a higher standard. Nevertheless, you are going to hear some complaints and a lot of gripes from the players because they think this is not necessarily the standard that they are held to.
All right, our Chris Mortensen saying that some players are outraged. Perhaps take a pick away, do something that affects the team, Stephen A. Here's the question. Do you believe players should be outraged?
No, I don't. I'm pretty annoyed when I keep hearing that the players are outraged. They need to grow up. Okay, you have to understand something. There's a difference between somebody who is engaging in irresponsible behavior and somebody who clearly has a problem, as in a substance abuse problem. You know, it's sort of the difference, Skip Bayless, between somebody that's smoking some weed and somebody that's on crack or cocaine. I mean, the drug is strong, and there's a level of addiction that comes with it. Not to say that some people can't be addicted to weed, but clearly, you know, when you consider the fact that it's legalized in 2 states, that 23 other states use it for medicinal purposes and things of that nature, addiction is not something that they concern themselves with as it pertains to marijuana when you compare that to crack cocaine or something like that. Now, that has nothing to do with Jim Irsay. It's a different kind of problem. I understand the cash that was in his pocket. There may have been some bad intentions. I don't know. But clearly, considering the age that he's at, some of the problems that he's had in the past, clearly there are issues here that resonate far more than being labeled just irresponsible behavior. But the thing that annoys me about the player's position and why I get on them when they're in such an uproar about the owner is, look, he's one of the commissioner's bosses. I can't stand when people try to act like they don't understand what's going on here. You are not going to get held to the standard of an owner. And no matter what anybody says about our owner should be held to a higher standard and all of this other stuff, yeah, I understand that. You want to talk about fairness. Fair is a place where they judge pigs. It does not exist. And you have to understand that. So when they get all start griping and whining about all of this other stuff, there's just an impracticality to it all that is just annoying. You don't own a team. You cash checks. You don't cut them. Therefore, you don't have the leverage and the latitude that people in his position have. Because Roger Goodell truly is the commissioner when it comes to you. But he was appointed commissioner by the Irsays of the world. So there's a different standard that is not going to apply to him. And we understand that it may not be fair and it may not be equal to all of this other stuff. Whip-de-damn-do. That's life. And you need to recognize that and move forward. $500,000 fine, 6-game suspension. Okay, could it have been stiffer? Of course it could have been. Does it surprise me that it wasn't? Of course it doesn't surprise me, because the owner hires the commissioner. And I understand that, and I get that practicality, and I live with it. They should learn to as well.
I did not know your take on this, and I am pleasantly surprised by it, because I wholeheartedly agree with every word you just spoke. And I do think the players who are, quote-unquote, outraged, and I'm sure today, as the day moves on, we will hear from them, maybe tomorrow because a lot of teams are off today. But the point is that it is childish on their part. And it is, we're kind of back to the old parental expression of do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Come on. The players have to be held to a higher standard than the parent or the owner has to be in this case, because the owners don't play the game. The players are the role models on the field. They have to be held accountable for PED use and even recreational drug use because they play the game of football. Now, point of order. When it does come to some criminal activity, let's move into the NBA. Okay. When it comes to Donald Sterling and his racist business practices that were ongoing over, 15, 20-year period, I do believe the NBA should have moved in quicker and said no and put a stop to him or it, those racist business practices. And it finally took a leaked, privately recorded tape to finally bring this to a head. And we know what happened. But in this case, okay, 6 games. If you want it to be 8, listen, Jim Irsay not losing any sleep over 6 games. No. Because, trust me, I believe his daughter is going to sort of be put in charge. And
in the interim.
Yeah, in the interim. And you don't think that Jim will be in touch with said daughter, maybe occasionally communicate surreptitiously with the coach and the GM? How do you police that? How do you monitor that? You can't. And you know he will. Some way, somehow, it's just too hard to stop. And he's worth $1.6 billion, so $500,000, which is the max penalty.
That's not a lot?
Well, no, I guess it's not a little, but to him, I don't think he's losing any sleep over $500,000.
It's not even a penny.
Not even a penny. So Kerry brought this up to start. If the players or the Players Association really want to fight for this and try to negotiate this the next time they sit at the bargaining table, I guess you could set standards for owners whereby you lost a second-round draft choice. Now, that would hurt.
That affects you.
Jim would be stung by that one because all he lives, breathes, and exists to own and operate the Indianapolis Colts. So you take away his draft pick, you're taking away part of his life and his lifeblood. But in this case, I can't get worked up about it. I'm with you, Stephen A., and I appreciate your position on this.
Look at you getting along today. October 9th, Irsay allowed to come back and be with his team when they faced the Texans. Also, in addition to the fact that he is suspended for those first 6 games, he's not allowed to tweet, you guys. He's a prolific tweeter, as you know. We used to look forward to his tweets.
Okay, but he can still tweet about non-NFL matters.
Okay.
So classic rock.
Okay, perhaps.
Beatles versus Stones.
Perhaps.
Who you got?
All the things that we want to hear about from one Jim Irsay.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Stephen A., you interested in that or no? You could care less.
Not really. Not really. Could care less.
Saturday night, the NASCAR season comes down to Richmond. After 6 grueling months of racing, the playoffs are just a week away. Newman, Biffle, Boyer, and Kyle Larson have one more shot to lock up a spot in the all-new Chase. 43 drivers battle, 16 advance, 1 race to go. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Richmond, Saturday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on ABC, presented by AutoZone.
According to a survey conducted by NFL Nation reporters throughout the offseason and training camp, NFL players support the Washington Redskins, a nickname by a strong majority. Take a look at this poll. Redskins players were asked a simple question. Do the Redskins need to change their name? Of the 286 players polled, 58% said the Redskins should not change their name, while 42% said they should. Outside the Lines interviewed Amanda Blackhorse, the lead plaintiff in the Redskin trademark case. Here's her perspective.
We got over 80 national, well-respected Native American groups and tribes behind us. That's just what we have on paper. There are more people out there, and the numbers will continue to grow. We have here a movement of people, a movement of Native American people who want the name to be changed.
And I've met thousands of Native Americans. I'm yet to meet one out there on a reservation that comes up to me and says, I don't like the name of your football team. It's actually the opposite.
And according to another poll conducted by Langer Research for Outside the Lines, nearly 3/4 of Americans favor letting the Washington Redskins keep their nickname, but there's still a growing percentage who feel the name should be changed. So we've talked about this a lot on the show, so we're asking the question, have the results of the polls changed your opinion? Consider that. Have the results of the polls, Stephen A., changed your opinion?
I wouldn't say it's completely changed it, but it's heightened my level of sensitivity, to be quite honest with you. When you consider the fact that at one time 8% of the people polled in this nation felt that the Redskins name should be changed, that number has now climbed to 23%. It's something that you simply can't ignore. But according to polls, reading from an article in the Washington Post, the number is still at 71%, saying that the name shouldn't be changed. And when you look at it from partisan, from a political standpoint, Democrats, Republicans, it's like an 89% of them feel the name shouldn't be changed. The Democrats have decreased from 85 to about 58%. Independents are somewhere in the middle as well. Clearly, it's a growing number of people who feel it should be changed. But why do they feel that way? Where were they a decade ago? Where were they 20 years ago? What has happened is more attention has been brought to the issue, and I think a lot of people out there are feeling the way that I feel, and that is this. I didn't find the name offensive until I was made aware of the fact that Native Americans found it offensive. But then you listen to Daniel Snyder, you listen to the NFL, you hear about how the exorbitant amount of dollars have been paid in terms of research. You hear about how people have gone to the reservations, and there have been numerous reservations where people don't care about the name. They care about whether we have heat, hot water, electricity, and things of that nature. You just say to yourself, if it's a divide, then why should Daniel Snyder change it? because clearly it's good for his business to keep the name as is, and there's a divide with everything. Now, if it was in unison and everybody stood up and everybody in the Native American community said, this is offensive to us and that is that, then there's nowhere for him to go. But when you have folks that are saying they have evidence, with Chris Cooley coming on the show, with Daniel Snyder in his interview, with the NFL and their position with Daniel Snyder, if they're saying that some people say that it's offensive, most of them say it's not, then I don't know where the incentive to change would be for Daniel Snyder. So I'm sort of stuck, Skip. I'm not of the mindset that if it offends one person, then ultimately that's all that matters. But I am of the mindset that if the Native American community stood up, a vast majority of them, and said, we find this offensive, that's all I needed. The question is a vast majority of them saying that? I don't know if there's concrete evidence to substantiate that claim, and that's where I'm lost.
So it sounds like you're leaning back toward it's okay to keep the name Redskins.
No, I'm more leaning towards not that it's okay, because if it were me, Skip, I would change it. But I'm not blaming Daniel Snyder as much as other people would for his refusal to change the name when there clearly is a divide and he believes it would detrimentally affect his bottom line if they did change the name. If he has enough support to keep the name, I can't knock him for that either, if it's coming from the Native American community.
I haven't moved off my position one bit. I still believe that the name should be changed. I still believe that there is a large enough, a significant enough segment of the Native American population of this country opposed to that nickname, considers it racist and disparaging, as was why the team's trademarks were revoked. Remember that? Yeah. They lost some trademarks. Now, they are appealing, and that could maybe take forever to appeal. But the trademarks were canceled because the nickname was deemed disparaging to Native Americans. Now, the problem is, for the Native American segment opposed, that Dan Snyder has orchestrated quite a PR blitz here. He's hired a crisis management firm. There's a website, redskinsfacts.com, and it's masterful. He's got a lot of money behind it. And I think it's starting to turn the tide back in favor of keeping the nickname Redskins. So now we've had Chris Cooley on the show say he talked to what was over 1,000. Over 1,000. Not one Native American said he or she had a problem with the nickname. Now last night we heard Dan Snyder say he's talked to, we're going another step, thousands of Native Americans. Not one had an issue. Yet at some point, I'm pretty sure because Chris Cooley acknowledged this, the Redskins acknowledged as a team that 9 out of 10 Native Americans are okay with the nickname. Some even embrace the nickname. Okay, that means, if my math is right, that Dan Snyder and Chris Cooley hit the lottery, right? Because how did they find only Native Americans who were in favor of when only 9 out of 10? Yeah. I can't do the math. I can't make it work. That means 1 out of 10 opposed. And I know one was opposed last night because I very much enjoyed the Outside the Line special on this nickname. And Amanda Blackhorse I found to be, and we saw a soundbite from her, a very compelling speaker. And when she raised my goosebumps was when she said, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, she has publicly challenged Dan Snyder to come call her to her face a Redskin. Call her that to her face. And John Barr asked Dan Snyder about, well, what if there was a team called Blackskins or Yellow Men? How long would that last? And, of course, Dan Snyder's remark was what we usually hear from him. No, this name represents only honor, pride, and respect. Well, Stephen A., if you listen to Amanda Blackhorse, it was moving. It was effective to me. And she even challenged the Native American opposite her, who was pro-Redskins, over how much are you being paid? And he gave kind of a vague denial that he was being paid at all by the Redskins to take this position. But my point is, they're out there. I think there are more than one Amanda Blackhorse out there. So does that not change your position a little bit back to where you originally were?
Well, here's my point. If we find that the people who say they have no problem with the name emanating from the Native American community are somehow being paid by the Redskins, of course that would change my position. What I'm saying to you is that amongst the Native American, I am not a Native American. I am a black man. I can speak to that, but I can't speak to what is offensive to the Native American community. It's not about Daniel Snyder's research. It's not about Chris Cooley's research and the thousands that he spoke to in the Native American community. I don't know. All I'm saying is, if the Native American community is divided legitimately on whether or not the name is offensive, then that's a problem they have to resolve amongst themselves before they're looking at the rest of us and asking us to intervene on their behalf. Now, if they stood up in unison and said, we find this offensive, it's a different ballgame. Because to me, it doesn't matter what Daniel Snyder thinks. You ain't Native American. Who the hell are you to define what's offensive and what is not for them? But if they can't even make up their minds amongst themselves, we have a problem. There are things that are universally offensive to black people, to Jewish people, to Hispanic people, to Asian Americans, etc. Universal. You can't be divided and then expect people to want to come and help you as if you're unified. That's all I'm saying. I need to make sure that Daniel Snyder's proclamations are false. And I don't know if we can do that yet. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, and to sum this up, back to your question, and I'll take it as a personal question.
Sure.
Why didn't I stand up 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when I first started my newspaper career and say, this nickname is racist? I always believed in my heart it was racist, but why didn't I stand up? Because what you just said, I'm not Native American. And 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I didn't hear one Native American raising the issue. Now I'm hearing quite a few, the Oneida tribe, the National Native American Congress, that it's significant enough to me that now I'm all ears. And now I'm saying, yeah, I always thought that. That's not hypocritical. That's not a second guess of mine. That's from my heart. I always thought it was racist. But I couldn't say anything until I heard those people say something, and they are saying something now.
On Tuesday, Josh Brent became a member of the Dallas Cowboys once again. Well, almost. The NFL outlined a conditional reinstatement for the defensive lineman who killed teammate Jerry Brown while driving under the influence, which would allow him to return to the Cowboys in Week 11 after serving a 10-game suspension. All right, Stephen A., conditional reinstatement. Here's the question, and I'll give it to you first. So, would you be okay if Brent returned in Week 11?
Initially, my answer was no, because I thought that he needed to be gone for the season. What I will say, however, is that, reading Jacques Jean Taylor's column on ESPN Dallas.com earlier this morning, it educated me a bit, and I modified my position somewhat from this perspective, Skip Bayless. It's one thing to go to jail for 6 months, be in an alcohol treatment facility for 45 days thereafter, to have to look his mother in the face, knowing that you contributed to the death of her child, to having to look his daughter in the face, Brown Jr., his daughter in the face, knowing that you helped take her father away from her. That's a lifetime sentence in and of itself, and I agree with that. I think the reason my reaction initially was banishment from the league for an additional year is because I was appalled when I saw that Josh Brent would be appealing the decision on the part of the NFL. My attitude is he's got some nerve to be appealing anything. Be happy that you're going to be allowed back into the league. It's not like you're a star-studded player that people can't do without. You played 39 games. You only had 1.5 sacks and 5 tackles in your career. I mean, my goodness, I think that life could go on without you. But the point is that if you know that you were intoxicated and you were charged with vehicular manslaughter because of it, because it contributed to the death of your friend and former teammate. I'm like, how are you going to appeal that? There's something that galls me about him appealing that decision on the part of the NFL. Whatever restrictions that they want to put on him is something that I think he should be open to tolerating, because he's lucky that they're even allowing him back in the league. Now, they did it in the past. Leonard Little and Dante Stallworth, I get all of that. It's not the first time that they've made concessions and they've done what they could to be receptive to a player's return after such a mistake has taken place. But in the end, I don't think he should be appealing anything. But I can't really have a problem with him coming back after 10 games, considering the fact that he's already been incarcerated and he's already been in a treatment facility, and he's going to have to live with this mistake for the rest of his life.
I'm with you on this one. I also agree with your premise that appealing just doesn't feel right. It's a bad look. Just under the circumstances, it probably isn't sitting well with a lot of people who are on the fence about whether Josh Brent should even return at all to the Dallas Cowboys. But I want to make the case here that it sounds like, by all accounts, the team is ready to have him back. The team still likes him and still loves him. And he comes across as he was a good teammate. And clearly, he made a life-taking and life-changing decision. He chose to get drunk and drive a car at an excessively high rate of speed, and he took the life not only of a teammate, but one of his closest friends. And as you point out, he's still going to live with that the rest of his life. And he has said that he will help take care of Jerry Brown's daughter. And Jerry Brown's mother has publicly said that she forgives Josh Brent. So is this a win-at-all-costs kind of move by Jerry Jones? Well, you made the point, Stephen A. He's not a great player. I'm not even sure he's a good player. He's an average player on what's going to be a bad defense. We're talking about Week 11 at the earliest to come back. You point out sack and a half in 39 games. I don't know, maybe he's better than I think. But I don't think he's worth the trouble if you think there is trouble here. And I think Jerry Jones, Jason Garrett, rest of the players, I think they care about this guy. And he's been gone now, if it's Week 11, he will have been gone for almost 2 years. It's a pretty stiff penalty to pay from a football perspective. And as you said, 6 months of jail, 45 days in rehab. Okay, is the appeal a bad look? Yeah, it's a bad look. Probably should just go on about your business and try to get ready for Week 11. But I can't work up any righteous indignation that Josh Brent should not be allowed back with the Dallas Cowboys. I think he should. I think he paid as much of a price as you can pay for taking somebody's life in the manner he took it. And now, God bless him, he's got to live with that the rest of his born days.
He's still paying for it.
Yeah, he'll always pay for it.
Always pay for it.
The only one thing that I totally agree with both of you on that. I know it was a mistake. It clearly wasn't intentional. It was irresponsible, but it wasn't intentional. I think if he could take it back, I don't think there's any doubt that he would. And I'm not trying to engage in condemnation of him in that regard. But I'd also like to point out that when you look at the Cowboys, Skip Bayless, why are we to take their position seriously? We have to respect and appreciate the fact that there's your family and then there's your football family. And from a football family perspective, they're looking out for one of their own by being supportive. I would do the same thing if I were them. I'm not knocking them for that. But at the same time, we can't trust their judgment but so much either, because they're the same organization led by the same owner who had the guy on the sideline days after the incident had taken place. I mean, for a nationally televised game. How ridiculously stupid can you be if you're the Cowboys under those circumstances? So we certainly can't trust their judgment. And again, we know and understand it wasn't intentional. He made an incredible, egregious mistake. We know that. If he could take it back, he would. But in the end, somebody is dead because of his actions. There's a child that doesn't have their father. and there's a mother that doesn't have their son because of that mistake. So I don't want to see him appealing anything, especially when the league has said you can come back. Appeal looks very bad.
Yeah.
It just does.
Last quick point on what you pointed out about he was allowed on the sideline that first weekend. Jason Garrett and some of the team leaders felt it was a time of crisis for him, so as a football family, they wanted to keep him close just to make him feel like his family was still there for him. And I believe, if memory serves, Jerry Jones from above probably got word from the league office and said, no, we just can't, that will not work. So that was the end of that deal.
Yeah, but that's still real bad judgment, man. You could see him. You could go over to his house after the game. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
You didn't have to have him on the sideline for a nationally televised game. That just shows how impaired Dallas's judgment, the Cowboys' judgment, was with that.
Moving forward, Josh Brent has enlisted the help of former Cowboy Michael Irvin and Nate Newton, who've also had their off-the-field issues, to be his mentor during this time. After taking criticism for his performance during the years as the Eagles franchise quarterback, Donovan McNabb isn't one to bite his tongue. On Tuesday, McNabb appeared on 97.5 The Fanatic and was asked if he thought Nick Foles was a franchise quarterback. His answer, no.
I really can't answer that at this particular point, but if I had to give a take, I would say no. You know, I think what he will do, he won't do what he did last year. That just won't happen. 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I see him more being a 25 touchdown, maybe 8, maybe 10 interception guy.
All right, well, Nick Foles responded. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I haven't earned anything yet. Like I said, it's week to week. It's a week-to-week thing. It always will be. My job's to go out there and play to the best of my ability. I haven't earned anything yet. Maybe when I'm done with football totally, I'll look back and see something. But no. All right, here we go. The question is this. Foles Gold. Does Donovan McNabb have a point, Stephen A.?
He has a point where he says that Nick Foles is not going to duplicate what he did last year, because 27 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions, that's not something you're going to see normally from a starting quarterback in the NFL. It's just not going to happen. Nick Foles has thrown more interceptions this past preseason than he did the entire year last season. So I don't think that that's an insult to him. I think Donovan McNabb is making a valid point, but more importantly, I don't think Donovan McNabb is trying to come across as disrespectful at all. First of all, understand that he does what we do now. He's a pundit. He's a commentator for Fox Sports. That's number one. Number two, he has a career with the Philadelphia Eagles, got his number retired. This dude is one of the all-time greats in franchise's history. So he showed up in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform. He produced for them. If anybody deserves the right to speak up about an Eagles quarterback, it is definitely Donovan McNabb. But I also think that there's an itch that's going on with Donovan McNabb. He's saying what he's saying. He means what he says. He's honest about it. He's got a lot of class and integrity, as we both know, Skip Bayless. But I also think that Donovan McNabb is sort of reminding folks he not only knows a thing or two about the game, but he can still play the game, because I really believe that Donovan McNabb thinks he's better than half the quarterbacks in this league right now.
You think he is?
I don't know if he's better than half of them, but I think he's better than at least a third of them. I think there's several teams in the NFL that he could probably start for and produce for right now. I really, really believe that about Donovan McNabb.
He did not look that way in his final year or two in this league. You have to admit that. And he did get a little heavy, as I recall.
No question. Got a little heavy, no doubt about that. Also, systems that he was in, situations that he was under with Mike Shanahan in Minnesota before that. After that, it wasn't the ideal scenario for him. So we got to take that into consideration, too.
Okay, here's the irony. What was your one criticism of Donovan when he was the franchise quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles? It was what?
He had absolutely nothing to say.
Aha! And
he didn't speak up enough.
Yeah, right. And now he has too much to say.
That's his job now.
That is his job.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. We've had him on this show over the last 5-6 years, and once he was out of uniform and onto our set here, although this debate desk, this always brings out the best in people, but Donovan came to play at the debate desk. He had lots of opinions because he's a smart man and he does have a lot to say that he wouldn't say in Philadelphia as the franchise quarterback. Now, back to the case he's making. Here's my problem with Donovan commenting on the current Eagles quarterback. Every time I hear the ex-star in a city comment on the current quarterback, it's a can't-win situation. Because if Donovan speaks his heart and he says, he's not a franchise quarterback, and Donovan did say he's not a franchise quarterback, but then he tried to modify his position by saying, well, he won't be 27-2. He might be 25-8 or 10. Well, that's not a huge drop-off. I mean, if Nick Foles goes 25-8 this year, I think we're all saying, hey, he's a franchise quarterback. Those are pretty good numbers.
Good year.
So, yeah, I thought Donovan would say, I expect him to go 14-17 this year and start to prove he's not a franchise quarterback. But my problem with the whole premise is, when I hear Roger Staubach and Troy Aikman applaud Tony Romo, rave about Tony Romo, I just roll my eyes because they're disqualified because they're still Cowboy fans. They're still Cowboy ambassadors. But Donovan is going the other direction, and then it prompts Eagles fans to say, how disloyal are you? Or how jealous are you of the new franchise quarterback?
He's going to sound jealous.
You do sound jealous. Yeah. You're not playing. You still want to play, says Stephen A. Do you resent him?
But that may not be the case.
Do you envy him? Again, you can't win that discussion.
Sure.
Either way you go, you're going to get criticized as, you're just pro-Eagles, or why are you anti-Eagles, Donovan, after all we did for you? Right?
No, I don't take it that way at all. Number one, I'm going to reiterate, it's his job now. That's what he does. That's number one. Number two, he was asked a question. He answered the question. Number three, is it jealousy or negativity to say that a quarterback in the NFL is not going to throw 2 interceptions?
Okay.
I mean, think about how incredible that number is. 2 interceptions. 2.
Okay.
That
timeout.
You can't conceive that.
I'm pretty sure we didn't hear it in this soundbite that we heard, but he did say he does not believe Nick Foles is a franchise quarterback. Well, that's a pretty negative statement.
Not yet.
No?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Not yet. We got to see what you can do. You don't get to do it for just one season. Okay? And Chip Kelly's new. He was Nick Foles got into that system. Now, granted, Deshaun Jackson is gone, but Jeremy Maclin is back. LaShawn McCoy is still there. You acquired Darren Sproles from in free agency from New Orleans. You still got Riley Cooper. You got Brent Selleck. Let's see what he does. I don't think there's anything negative about that, especially coming from a guy who actually did it. Went to 4 consecutive NFC Championship games. Played in a Super Bowl against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Passed for over 33,000 yards. Look, nobody has been specifically critical of Donovan McNabb opening his mouth more than me, because I know how smart he is, I know how intelligent he is, how knowledgeable about football he is, how morally sound he is. He's a damn good brother. And what would irritate me about him is that he had so much to give and so much to say, but he came across as a company guy willing to be so PC all the time. And so the argument was, well, if you didn't have anything to say when you were playing, why would anybody care about what you have to say now? But that doesn't make what he says wrong. It doesn't make him jealous. It doesn't make him, Bush League or anything like that. He's doing his job. The difference is, because he didn't have so much to say when he played, now that he's not playing, people don't care as much as they should unless they can take a jab at him. But if Donovan McNabb had been outspoken when he was a player, I'd venture to say he would be one of the elite analysts on television today, because people would gravitate to what he had to say because they'd remember that he had the heart to say it when he was a player.
Okay, maybe so, but in the end, are you saying it's unfair for me to suspect that if Donovan still wants to play, that there isn't a little bit of jealousy or envy in his assessment of Nick Foles?
I think that's unfair because I don't find Donovan McNabb to be somebody who needs to be jealous of a dude that had one good year, helped the team finish 10-6, and got bounced out in the divisional playoff game. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't think that when you pass for 33,000 yards, when people think that you would at least be considered for the Hall of Fame, when you just had your number retired by the organization, and when you were a primary reason for a tremendous level of success that the organization enjoyed, albeit without a Super Bowl championship, I don't believe that it's fair to say that Donovan McNabb is a bit jealous of Nick Foles. He has no reason to be jealous of Nick Foles yet.
How do you feel about that?
I'll leave it with a
You'll leave it with a with a question mark? All right, here we go, guys. If you can't help the Cowboys, who can you help? Michael Sam, officially a Cowboy. Jason Garrett having a press conference just a few moments ago announcing it. Let's listen.
We feel like he has a chance to come in at a position that we've tried to address really throughout the offseason, throughout training camp, and compete for a spot. You know, the way we view the practice roster is, first and foremost, their job is to help facilitate practice. But it's also a great opportunity for us to develop personnel and evaluate personnel. And this is not new or different for us. We're bringing a player in we want to see on the practice field. We got nothing but good reports about him from our people and from people in St. Louis. And we just want to give him a chance to come in and see if he can help our football team.
You want to give him a chance to come in and see if he can help that football team. Michael Sam is on the practice squad, Stephen A. Your reaction?
Well, I'm happy for him. I think that he deserved an opportunity to be on the practice squad. When we consider how anemic the Dallas defense is, got to remember Hatchett is gone. DeMarcus Ware is gone. They don't have much of a pass rush. You know, at the linebacker spot, Sean Lee is injured. You just doing patchwork. Even Melton, that guy from Chicago, had an ACL injury in 2013. You don't know what he's going to be able to do for you. The kid that they drafted in the second round, I think it's DeMarcus Lawrence. You know, he missed in training camp because of a foot injury. So when you look at it from that perspective, Dallas has a lot of problems, and they want to play the 4-3. So you've got Sam there to rush the passer, to be that practice player, and it is a practice squad. I have no problem with it whatsoever, and I think it was a good move on the part of the Dallas Cowboys, who need all the help they can get in practice as well as the games, evidently.
I love the fit. I don't care if Jerry Jones improves his marketing and his PR a little bit with the addition of Michael Sam. This is a 4-3 defense in need of pass rushers. George Selvey, one starter at one end, has got a bad shoulder. Jeremy Mincey at the other end, I have no idea what to expect. You mentioned Henry Melton inside, coming off the ACL. The kid they drafted in the second round, bad foot. It's like one thing after another after another. In fact, I wouldn't have had a big issue if they had signed Michael Sam to the regular roster because, silly me, I think he could contribute fairly quickly. Again, the bar is set very low. I'm pretty sure this is the worst defense in the National Football League. The Bears could rival them from what I saw in the preseason. But Dallas was just preposterously bad. Even though I was trying to hope against hope that the glass was half full, I think the glass is empty on defense. Offense, whole nother issue. Can they win some 51-48 games like they lost the one at Jerry World to Peyton Manning last year? I hope so. I'm still looking at probably 6-10. I might modify that prediction by tomorrow's show when we do all of our predictions for every division in Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good tease.
Yeah.
Stealing your thunder here.
Yes.
But Stephen A., again, I don't understand the backlash performance-wise against Michael Sam. I'm using eye test. You know, I watched me a lot of college football, and I watched me a lot of Michael Sam last year. I'm going off TV. I realize Coney Ealy, who was a second-round draft pick to Carolina, was on the opposite defensive end, the bookend defensive end to Michael Sam. Maybe that took some pressure off Michael Sam and gave him more single blocking highway to the quarterback. But this kid plays with extreme passion and high motor and high energy, and he was an extremely productive Southeastern Conference football player. This is just me. Translates. This is a team that is numb to and immune to distractions. So Michael Sam will not be a distraction. This is maybe the only team in the NFL. They have so many sideshows. They have a walking, talking distraction named Jerry Jones as their owner. It'll be okay. He can blend. There's no place he could blend into the way Michael Sam can blend into this locker room onto this practice field. After a while, he will be just another quote-unquote sideshow. So maybe he can relax, play football. Again, I brought up the NFL Network report that he wasn't viewed as a great practice player. Your point is you better be, because that's your lifeblood right now is practice. So he's on the practice squad, but he will get to demonstrate his passion and high motor in practices as a 4-3 end. And as you know, Stephen A., Rod Marinelli is a great teacher of defense and of defensive line play. So he's with a good guy in the right fit, right system, and a team that, I got to tell you, desperately needs somebody to rush the passer. I think he can make things happen off the edge. I hope we get to see it. I hope in a few weeks he gets a shot in a real game.
He's got to make the squad. He's getting a squad. He's getting a shot with the practice squad. He's got to show up. He's got to produce in practice.
Yep, I'm with you.
We said tomorrow we had our NFL season preview, the 2014 season preview, and you gentlemen will weigh in and give all your picks. So let's talk about the games. The NFL season kicks off tomorrow night when the defending champion Seahawks open their title defense in Seattle against Aaron Rodgers and the Pakcers. According to the Las Vegas LVH Superbook in Vegas, the spread has moved since yesterday, with Seattle currently as the 6-point favorites over Green Bay. Should the Seahawks be the prohibitive favorites? Skip Bayless.
So, Stephen A. Smith, I know you don't monitor these point spreads and the changes in the point spreads, but this one's going up. So the betting public is saying Green Bay is having, in their eyes, less and less of a chance to win in Seattle. I personally think they have no chance to win in Seattle. I think that bad man that is Aaron Rodgers is going to be in for a bad night. We remember what happened last time he visited there. And what did he go down in the first half? I think he got sacked 8 times, if memory serves, just in the first half. First half, he goes down
8 times in the first half, and they still got robbed. And they still got robbed of the victory.
But that was before Seattle was really Seattle, before they had all figured it out, before Russell Wilson had started playing at almost a Peyton-esque level, as we saw in the preseason, when he was sensational from start to finish. Their offense will be even better than it was a year ago. I think their defense will end up being as good as it was a year ago. And I loved what Bruce Irvin said about the rookie starting center now for Aaron Rodgers, Corey Linsley. Bruce Irvin said he's going to pray for him because he's going to have a long night. I don't know if I'm going to take that literally, but figuratively maybe. Stephen A., wrong place, wrong time for your MVP candidate. Not candidate.
He went all the way.
Well, I agree with you, but that's just week 1, and I don't think it'll be a blowout or anything like that. I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers. I still expect him to do his thing. I still expect Lacey and Starks and those boys to do their things, with Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb to do their thing. I'm not really concerned about them offensively. I think that they're not going to be able to put up the points against Seattle's defense the way they would against everybody else, but I think it'll be respectable. The problem is I still have questions as to whether or not Green Bay's defense has been upgraded significantly enough to do something with this Russell Wilson-led offense that now seems to be finding their groove. You're a champion now. You don't have to be worried about anything. There's a level of confidence that I see he's oozing. He still has Marshawn Lynch. You've got Doug Baldwin with Percy Harvin and those boys. I definitely think that Seattle, the concern is, will Seattle's offense run all over Green Bay's defense? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm hopeful that it'll be competitive, because I think that if they can neutralize Seattle's offense to some degree, I think Rodgers could find a way to put up a few points to make this game very interesting. But I do pick Seattle to win Thursday night. Okay, so Stephen A. Smith, you mentioned Green Bay's defense. If memory serves, it ranked 25th last year in defense. So it was bad.
Will the addition of Julius Peppers at age 34 and Ha-Ha Clinton Dix through the draft Is that going to change life on Green Bay's defense? We keep hearing about new schemes and new this and that. I'm not so sure about that.
Maybe eventually. I'm not sure it's going to happen in week 1. That's my issue. I'm not sure it's going to happen in week 1.
Yep. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be knocked down the MVP list after 1 week, and then we'll see what happens.
Who rises up?
Who
not
rises
at all.
up? Peyton Manning does in week 1. I think he runs away with it. I think the MVP race will basically be over after a week.
Even though he doesn't have Wes Welker.
He doesn't need Wes Welker.
It's ridiculous.
Not this week.
It's ridiculous. You don't want to hear that nonsense. Stephen A., at the beginning of the show, you said you'll be here. Is that correct? Will we see you tomorrow?
I will be here tomorrow. I'm getting ready to do my show on Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio, and then I'll be heading to Bristol.
All right. How'd it go yesterday? Congratulations, by the way.
It went very, very well, and it will continue to go well.
I didn't tune in. This one listened.
Yeah, I listened to the whole thing because nobody asked me to be on it, so I had to listen to it.
Oh, okay.
Not the first show, but you'll be on soon enough. Don't worry about it.
I missed on the show? I missed Ryan Ruocco on the show.
Oh, we missed Ryan Ruocco.
Yeah. It missed Ryan.
That's just Skip taking a stab at me because he don't like me by myself.
2014
Ryan's going to be just fine.
Season preview tomorrow here. Hear what the boys have to say about the NFL. 10 a.m.